I will be skipping most. Okay, wait. I will be skipping most of the esport and similar awards and giving a passing comment on most awards while giving commentary based on my own and my community's reaction throughout. Now, the awards show overall was decent with plenty of awkward or even cringe moments. After all, you're allowing the developers out of their comfort zone, out of their offices, out of their homes, out of their basements even and trying to get them over their social anxiety that they may have. And the award show is trying so hard to emulate current movie award shows with plenty of celebrity appearances and millions of commercials. Now it makes sense that many previews of games due to come out over the next year or so will be featured, of course, and it should only make sense for a celebrity of all people to appear if they are appearing in a game, which they do at times. However, sometimes to introduce some awards, they just bring out a random celebrity just for the sake of it, like Timothy Chalamet at the end. Not quite sure why he was presenting the game of the year, for example, when it could have been another prominent developer or even CEO of a game studio. It could be, for example, from Microsoft or PlayStation, or even just a studio themselves, like Bethesda. Tom Howard could have came out to present it, although he may have been salty after, well, since Starfield wasn't even brought up for Game of the Year this year. But hey, look, it's just an example. It does maybe 1 hour yeah, maybe 1 hour at most focused on the awards and speeches themselves, with the majority of awards offered in quick succession, with most awards offered in quick succession, in a recap version, which some what I consider major awards tossed in there as well. It probably is hard to balance it all. Like, you don't need 3.5 hours like the Oscars. The Oscars is like 3.5 hours of mostly, maybe 3 of those hours, maybe, is handing out and focused on the movies themselves with plenty and plenty of speeches. It just seems to be getting longer every year. But what they can do is they can definitely lean down the show, particularly maybe the pre show, which is about 30 or so minutes. Just cut that out entirely. There's literally no need for that segment at all. And maybe you can toss in lots of the esports and similar awards, let's say lesser or minor awards, if I can even say that, and put them in the recap section at the side where Jeff or maybe someone else just quickly goes through, these are the nominations, this is the winner. Next, these are the nominations, these are the winner. And then you can have maybe the best awards, the best of genre awards, such as best fighter, best RPG, and then some of the more critical awards, such as best game direction and, of course, game of the year, etc., being, the highlights of each one. And I think that would strike a much better balance, also leaning out the show a bit, because 3.5 hours is a little bit inflated. But hey, these are just my criticisms on it. But at least they tightened up security this year. Now, first up, before the awards show, there's a special mention to God of War Ragnarok DLC called Valhalla, which is coming out on December 12th. This is a free DLC. It is said it will be highly replayable adventure with unique twists inspired by the roguelite genre. The devs also said to show their appreciation for the incredible support and love that they've received from their community since the game released last November 2022, that is. The basic premise also is that Kratos will go on a personal and reflective journey as an epilogue to the events to the main game. And just to kind of celebrate all of this, not only Kratos' journey, but also the community journey, this is why the game is coming out completely free, which is amazing from them, especially nowadays with everything being added on at huge costs. Usually, I'm sure they could have easily tacked on $10 or something onto this and people would have bought it anyway. But here is a studio trying to make a big difference. So well done to Santa Monica on that. It will act as a separate experience, which can be started at any time, but you were warned by the developers that you may experience spoilers if you have not finished the main game first. Now, let's get to some of the awards. So, Best Family Game Award, Super Mario Wonder. I think this was the right call, as Mario is renowned by kids and adults worldwide, and with the focus on multiplayer, it is a great family game. It's very colourful. I constantly commented on it during my playthrough, and still, while I play it offline, off stream that is, I still am just blown away by how whimsical and creative it is. So as a family game, absolutely amazing game. Congratulations to Nintendo on that. For player accessibility, Forza Motorsport. So for player accessibility, Forza Motorsport, special thanks to the audio team and special accessibility department, they announced with this. But accessibility is growing. Accessibility is a growing aspect to game creation, so it's nice that studios are making great efforts to ensure that gamers worldwide are more readily available to tackle their game. Forza also won the Sports or Best Racing Award for the year too. With Best Performance, Neil Newborn for Asterion in Baldur's Gate 3. Now, Neil, for example, I have a personal connection with because he came into one of our streams while we were actually tackling, just before we actually tackled Asterion's big finale, essentially, in Baldur's Gate 3. So that was an amazing moment to have the actual voice actor come into my stream with a huge amount of support, and then people staying and watching me play the Asterion's adventures. So big well done. And Neil seems like a very genuine, very thoughtful man, and I could not be more grateful for him winning. There have been some amazing performances by the other actors who were nominated. A big shout out, of course, to Final Fantasy XVI's Clive, and even Alan Wake as well. So it is amazing that when he won the award, it was such a class act that he thanked the fans, his co-stars, and thanked the community most of all for reaching out to tell them what an impact Baldur's Gate 3 was to them, in terms of visibility to all different communities, because the game represents so many of us. So for someone like that to come onto the stage and just give such a heartfelt, and you could really hear it in his voice, and you could even see it in his eyes, how much it meant to him about this. Thank you so much, Neil, for using your platform on doing something amazing. So well done, and congratulations once again. And also on the Joystick Award. Previously, he won Best Performance as well. So truly amazing. Well done. For Best Narrative, we have Alan Wake 2. Now, special thanks to the various artists to make the music for the series. I am currently playing through this at the moment, and this is definitely very intriguing, keeping enough mystery to keep you moving forward and explaining just enough so you are not completely caught in the dark. Now, from the live action sequences they've filmed to the in-game cinematics and having multiple layers to the narrative, it all just comes together to make this an amazing choice for winning a Best Narrative. Now, I personally didn't vote for Alan Wake in this category because I just didn't play it at the time of my vote. But now that I'm, many hours into the game, I can definitely see why this won. Now, big shout out, of course, to Baldur's Gate 3, which without a doubt has an amazing story, especially since it can branch in so many different ways. And most of my community also felt that Baldur's Gate 3 did better, but in saying that, most of them did not experience Alan Wake 2. And for those who have been watching me play some of it on stream, they just may not be up to the same level of where I am with how I feel about it. Now, the game also won Best Game Direction, where there's a new game plus coming out very soon on December 11th, and some extra content along with that. So it's great that the developers are adding to the game. Now, for free after release. So fantastic. Now, my community were surprised here, but Baldur's Gate 3 did suffer with direction throughout its history, throughout the project itself, whereas Alan Wake is just a downright masterpiece in direction with all these multiple layers coming together. Now, I'm not by any means downplaying Baldur's Gate 3 and how crazy it must have been to create that masterpiece, because without a doubt I love Baldur's Gate 3. But I'm happy that Alan Wake did win it, because it's another level as well. Like, both of these games are on a different level. The creativity from Remedy, which they have continued to grow and expand upon over their last couple of games, such as Control, even Alan Wake 1, definitely you can see they're just growing and growing, and they just have this unique eye for this. They just put their own stamp all over it. So without a doubt, and when I say they are, Remedy that is, are putting it all together tightly in a nice, neatly solved case. Each nomination, however, did deserve its spot here without a doubt. Now, moving on to best debut for indie, we have Cocoon. Now, I have not personally played this, but I have heard great things about it, so it's great to see that such a little gem like this has found its way into the hearts of many players. Moving on to best action game, we have Armored Core, the Fires of Rubicon, from Software, of course. Now, this is another game I haven't had the chance to play. It came out during Baldur's Gate 3, and I was mid playthrough at this stage. I have to get around to it eventually. I have heard great reviews about it. And also, of course, in From Software fashion, the makers and creators of Dark Souls and the like. If, in case you did not know this, it is, of course, difficult. But I'm sure it's going to be a great game to try one day. Maybe in my own time, so I don't freak out on stream and rant too much. Now, with the best score and music, we are bringing it to Final Fantasy 16. Now, all nominations had a great range of music. Like with Alan Wake, for example, it had many different scores which were sung between chapters, not just to mind the music and the atmospheric music in the game itself, but in between it had its own. It had a song for every single chapter, which was just mind blown. Now, I haven't gotten through the game completely yet, but if they keep to this level, even commercials, they have the band, the Gods of Asgard, playing, which also did a live music score during the Game Awards. So that was just amazing to see the actors come out from the game and the creators come out from the game and actually sing and dance on stage. Is just another level entirely. And of course, with Baldur's Gate, to Hi-Fi Rush as well. Like, Hi-Fi Rush won best audio design this year, and you know, a big shout out to its audio team for that particular game. And one of my praises, actually, when I was playing Final Fantasy 16 was its music. Like, I distinctly remembering on stream while I was playing it multiple times praising the music. One of my few praises, unfortunately, with that game, because I had a many unfortunately cons for it. So the pros definitely were in the music's favor, and anything voice acting, sound design, all that, graphics top notch. Whereas gameplay wise, you know, and anything in that particular coupling, I just was like, meh. They could have did much better, you know. Moving on, we have best indie game, which was Sea of Stars, another RPG which harkens back to the old days, such as Chrono Trigger and the liking, old Final Fantasy style games, you name it. I haven't got around to playing this one yet, but I've heard so many very sweet things about it, so I can't wait to play it. I kept wanting to play it, but right after I finished Baldur's Gate 3, we went straight into Lies of P, and then went straight into Lords of the Fallen, Alan Wake, and it just doesn't end. But I do need to get around to Sea of Stars. It just, once again, 2023 was just a mental, chaotic stage for gaming this year. Just it was just release after release after release. So I will get around to it, but I'm very, very thankful to their developers for winning an award. Well deserved, without a doubt. Now, for best community support, we have Baldur's Gate 3. Now, Larian do exceed. Now, people might be querying this, but Larian do exceed to please their customers. Not only did the price point of Baldur's Gate 3, which they could have easily added a hell of a lot more of a chunk onto that price. Not only from price point, but throughout its inception, it had 3 years of development in terms of early access, where they continuously focused on player feedback and changed and continued to evolve the game based on player feedback. Now, how much more, can you get from that? And of course, with each content patch, not only are they erasing thousands of bugs by fixing them, squashing them, however you might want to name it, but also there are major updates where they are continuously adding more content for free based primarily on player feedback. Like one, for example, was Withers, that they wish that there could be some sort of a wardrobe attached. That's what they did. Karlach didn't have a satisfying enough epilogue, because it is quite sad. But then they changed it quite quickly to not only is it still sad, but it's definitely a happier ending at the same time. And then, based even on more feedback for people who might not have fully liked the epilogue, they added a huge epilogue with thousands of extra lines of dialogue based on the choices you made, while also continuing to bring the game out on multiple different consoles, such as they got the PlayStation 5 out, they got the Xbox version out. Just, man. And then the community support and the handling of that support on Twitter. They're constantly on Twitter just tanking and addressing people. Like, this is other studios, please look at Larian. Look how favorable they are right now. Their reputation is through the roof. They are being praised by gamers worldwide. This is what you need to do. Please stop being like Activision, Blizzard, or EA, Ubisoft, etc. And come on, do this. Next on, we move a little bit away from the games and we focus on best adaptation, which is where film, movie, TV series, etc. Is brought out from a game and put onto a different medium. And here we got The Last of Us, and rightfully so. Like, I can't wait to see how they handle season 1 in particular. Season 2, should I say, especially after the amazingness that season 1 was. It was really good to see and interesting to see the changes that they made between season 1. But season 2 has me nervous. I think rightfully so, because if you've played The Last of Us Part 2, you'll know exactly why I am nervous. But no spoilers here, just in case you haven't actually played it. But they did so many things right, down to the atmosphere, the style of how it's going, and it was gripping. And they included some extra elements that I didn't even see coming. So big well done to The Last of Us, and I cannot wait for the next season. For best ongoing game, Cyberpunk 2077 and CD Projekt Red. My community and myself are not I'm not pleased by this particular one. We are more baffled than pleased, because, let me explain myself. Cyberpunk 2077 would not be in my definition, or even in my community's definition, and I'd love to see what Reddit would have, but I just can't be asked going searching for it. But it baffles me that it seems to have this ongoing title when it is simply not an ongoing game. An ongoing game, by definition, would be from the other contenders, the other nominations, which were Fortnite, Final Fantasy XIV, Genshin Impact, and Apex Legends. All of these have either expansions, many patches or seasons attributed to them, and they are ongoing and will continue to ongo for many years based on seasons, expansions, patches, you name it. So Each of these games have been out for years, and they will continuously to be updated years to come, whether it's by new characters, new skins, new guns, you name it, just new seasonal stuff that they put in all the time. And they will continue to evolve. Cyberpunk, however, is primarily a solo player experience. Primarily a solo player experience. And although it did have an expansion, and it did have patches. The patches, first and foremost, were pretty much designed to make the gameplay better in terms of smooth it out, a hell of a lot less bugs. And then the expansion, which came out, Phantom's Liberty, which just came out there in September, the end of September, that pretty much was when there was a huge overhaul to the game. So the game has a beginning point and an ending point. Unlike the other games in this list, there is no ending point as such until they, decide to shut down the servers or put into what we call maintenance mode, where they just leave it play as it is. Many games do that, but these are all huge cash makers. It's not going to happen anytime soon. Let's just, as we always say, Fortnite money. There's a reason. No one says Cyberpunk money or CD Projekt Red money, Maybe 1 point for CD Projekt Red, but just not now at least. So basically, once you finish the story, it is finished. It's not continuous, unlike the other games. So I'm not quite sure what's going on. Maybe someone else can explain it to me, maybe in the comments. Feel free to add it in. And maybe what you think deserved to win there. Let me know. Moving on to Best Action Adventure, we have Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, as if there was any other one that was going to do it. Now, I don't think anyone would complain too much that it won. Spider-Man 2 opened the game more to it with a small layer attached to it. Resident Evil 4 was a great walk through nostalgia, but it's mostly been done before. It's been done before. It's a remake. Yes, they added new stuff, but we've threaded similar territory. Jedi Survivor was a fantastic addition, but it had too much platforming for my liking. I remember commenting on it. Even one of the developers came in while I was fighting the final boss of the game, and I commented, I gave him some feedback being like, that was far too much platforming, and for lengthy, drawn-out experiences too. Alan Wake seems seems condensed into small areas, although there's not too much exploration going on. There's not too much adventure as such, but there's so many different layers to that game. The action is kind of secondary. It's mostly on like, there is a bigger emphasis from the first one on action, because that was meant to be dog crap. But yeah, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, look, it's like a gigantic expansion to the Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild 2, and it's just a massive, massive world. Multiple layers. You have the sky, you have Hyrule itself, and then you have the down below, and, seamless transition between all of them. It's just a phenomenal feat in gaming tech, to say the least. So well done to them. Fantastic. And which brings us to multiple awards, all won by the same game, by the same company. We have Best RPG, we have Best Multiplayer, Player's Choice, and Game of the Year, all going to Baldur's Gate 3 and Larian Studios. Sven, which is the CEO of Larian, dressed in his armor, as we can see here, made a heart-moving speech, which brought the cast members, creator teams, to tears, essentially, where he outlined that people passed away during the making of the project, and I'm sure anyone would agree. Like, it was very heartfelt, and it was so sincere and honest, deep. It's just amazing to see that. I'm very thankful that the game won Game of the Year, of course. One, because I didn't have to shave this lovely chest hair. I do trim it, but I didn't have to completely shave it off as a forfeit. But I do have to wear a crop top. Because I promised Ganko, Gamon, that I would if we do win. So the community, you will get me in a crop top very soon. Possibly the next stream. Just remind me in case I forget. Now, Larian has swept the award show just like the Joystick Awards before it, with 6 wins under their belt, including, of course, Neil Newbon for Best Performance. And they created a game of a generation in a year jam-packed with so many amazing and worthy nominations. And even games that didn't make the nominations, there were so many that could have. It's just one of those years where it was just not so straightforward who could be a nomination. I think most players kind of knew Baldur's Gate 3 would win. It would be an absolute shock if anyone else won, but it definitely was an amazing year. All nominations deserved their place there. Larian, since releasing Baldur's Gate 3, as mentioned before, they have provided continuous additions for free. They've quashed thousands and thousands of bugs within the game, even releasing a month later because they were nervous that it had to go up against Starfield and Fires of Rubicon. And other games as well, because September and the end of August was jam packed with big studio names, and still managed to put out this masterpiece. Along with winning Game of the Year, of course, they did take home the, even surprisingly, the multiplayer award too, where, like, I can definitely understand why, but I would have kind of probably went to more of a party game for this. But then again, when you think of that, this is a party game. You are in a party, you know? So, and just because of the range of what the different players can bring to the table with each adventure, it really brings that Dungeon and Dragons feel to it, you know? So I completely get it. But at the time, me and my community were like, huh, really? Okay. But it's afterwards I was like, oh wait, of course it won. You know, there you go. So huge congratulations to Larian Studio, the entire studio, and a huge congratulations to you if you have got to play and experience this masterpiece for yourself. An absolute masterpiece in the CRPG genre. All eyes will be on Larian for years to come. Other developers, other studios, other CEOs, just everybody. Take note. This is how you do it.